Hi, everybody. Sorry to interrupt your lunch. We don't mind if you keep chewing. Hello? Good afternoon. My name is Emily Smith Llinas, and I'm the Public Health Manager at the Montgomery County Hospital District. For the past 2 years, I've served on the Center for Houston's Future Scenario Building Team for the Scenarios 2040 project.
And I'm Raymond Lewis. I'm from down in Galveston. I'm a retired Associate Dean from the University of Texas Medical Branch. I currently am a regent with the Galveston Community College, and to the Fraga brothers, I'm a graduate of the University of Houston School of Social Work. I want to tell you a couple of things about the Scenario project. Scenarios are stories based on, of course, rigorous research, analysis, and community interviews that help us, or at least try to help us understand how the powerful driving forces that affect our world and the choices we make right now could affect our region's future decades from now. Through just an enormous number of retreats, and I think Emily and I were just trying to decide whether or not we had 5 or 25. Sometimes it felt like 25, but we had a great time doing it. We did a bunch of workshops. We had learning journeys to various aspects around the community in Galveston. Our 30-member all-volunteer team developed a thorough picture of what our region is today, and then constructed 2 stories that are plausible and we think possible. These scenarios are distinctive, different worlds in which we might someday have to live and work.
Now, it's important to note that these are not forecasts. There's, of course, no straight line from here to 2040. These stories are based on serious research, but like in any good story, there's a creative leap that must be taken. Now, 10 years ago, it may have been a little harder to understand the value of that creative leap in determining what our future would look like. But after September 11th, Katrina, Ike, a major oil spill off the coast, and the economic meltdown, to name a few things, we've learned to expect the unexpected. I also want to be clear that the scenario stories do not describe a world that the scenario team or the center likes or doesn't like, and they don't advocate any particular policy or position. But once created, they become powerful tools for each of us to decide what aspects of the possible futures we aspire to and which aspects we'd rather avoid. Then we can work, both individually and collectively, to make the appropriate choices now on our path to the future.
Later this spring, we'll begin a full public rollout of the Scenarios 2040 project with much longer videos than you're likely to see today for each story, with printed materials. Throughout the year, we'll have a full schedule of public events and workshops to explain exactly how the Scenario project can help you in planning for the future of your business, religious organization, and of course your neighborhoods. And as Mr. Vaughn has said, the future is a choice, and we like that.
We both wrote that down, actually. I also have to throw in there that you notice that we've had Galveston and Montgomery County here because we talk about greater Houston. We, in our humble opinion, think we make Houston greater. Sorry, Catherine, but no, we're glad to be here. As we start the rollout, we hope that you'll contact the center about having a workshop with your business, organization, or your county. But right now, we have the first brief sneak peek of Scenarios 2040. So imagine you're at the movies. I know there's no popcorn, but pop that shrimp in your mouth and think of this as a trailer for a blockbuster future.
Thank you, and enjoy.
Introducing the Center for Houston's Future, Scenarios 2040, a story of 2 worlds. In the playing to win scenario, we find a bustling metropolis, a region that has experienced explosive growth and that has taken its place among the most vital and influential centers of commerce in the world. The learning to live scenario describes a region that is focused less on growth and more on quality of life. A multicultural and socially conscious place where people want to invest, work, and live. Two compelling visions. Two opportunities to reflect on what's possible and begin the important work of considering our part in what happens next.
That was only the beginning. The rest will come, and we need your help in doing that. I'm Kelly Frales. I'm the chair of the Center for Houston's Future. And we think that this Scenarios 2040 project will be a blockbuster for our community. It is one of the only projects of this nature that has been undertaken by a region of the country. Different companies have engaged in scenario planning, but nowhere, in no community, no region has been undertaken like we have done in Houston. This is a business-led and community-based project. It's going to help us as we face these challenges of the future. It's going to help us in our choices, but we need your help today. There are little blue cards on the table, and we'd like for you to fill those out. Take one and take it home with you as well to your friends if you'd like to be kept up on the release of the Scenario 2040 project, because we'd like to have your help in having our community communicate and dialogue about the Scenarios 2040. So please help us. We don't sell these lists. We don't share them with other people. This is our communication list with you. It is my pleasure today to present our speaker. And the centerpiece, or a centerpiece for the Center for Houston's Future, is of course leadership. Leadership now and leadership in the future. We have recognized the Fraga brothers for their contributions and their leadership in the community. Thank you so very much. And Ms. Bush, thank you and your husband and your family for your leadership. Now we focus on leadership for the future. And we have with us as our speaker today a leader, current leader, and a future leader, someone who will be here for us in the future. Many of you know our speaker, Doug Foshee, as the chairman, president, and chief executive officer of El Paso Corporation, the owner of North America's largest pipeline system and a huge gas producer in North America. Many of you know Doug Foshee as an active member of the boards of the Greater Houston Partnership, where he served as the chair of the Environment Committee, Central Houston, or Houston Endowment. Some of you know Doug Foshee when he was a banker, or in his leadership role today as the independent trustee of the AIG Credit Trust, an appointment that was made by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And some of us here, some of you also, remember Doug from Texas State University, where he received his BBA and was recently recognized as a distinguished alumnus. Others will remember him from Rice University, where he received his MBA and serves on the Board of Trustees. And others yet will remember him from his days at SMU in the Graduate School of Banking. Yet others of you will know Doug for his commitment to children and his commitment to education, his service on the board of KIP. After today, we will all know and remember Doug Foshee for his foresight, for his leadership, and for his commitment to the city of Houston and our region and its future. Please help me welcome Doug Foshee, our speaker.
Sorry, Lupe. Now you have 2 awards. It's great to be here this afternoon. We're in a place, there's no one on the planet that could make Jody Giles put a Texas A&M hat on other than someone named Fraga. So that's worth the price of admission. Good afternoon. Thank you, Kelly, for that generous introduction. Thanks, Leslie Blanton and Rufus and Yvonne Cormier for organizing such a great event. Thanks, Catherine, for all your great leadership of the center. And thanks, Gene Vaughn, for acting as the catalyst for this organization's success for so many years and for your enduring love for this great city we all call home. Finally, I'd be remiss if I didn't say how proud it makes me to be on the same agenda today as Felix and Lupe Fraga, 2 men whose life's work is the embodiment of the virtues of giving back selflessly to your community, virtues that we would all do well to emulate. The title printed on your program today is The Future of Leadership. And I'm going to tell you that the future of leadership in Houston today is education. And the rest of my presentation is going to attempt to prove that point. But before I get to the meat of the matter, I'd like to share with you my thoughts as I was preparing to speak to you today, a little bit of inside baseball, if you will. I've been racking my brains for months trying to ascertain why the center asked me to speak to you today. Here are the previous speakers in reverse chronological order. Secretary James Baker, Kirby John Caldwell, Dr. John Mendelson, David Lebron, Dr. Larry Faulkner, all persons of great distinction. So I'm asking myself, did they make some mistake? Did they somehow confuse Landrum Junior High School with Deerfield Academy? Or Southwest Texas State with Northwestern? And then I figured it out. They asked somebody really good first, and that person said, "No way, I'm following Secretary Baker." But if you can find some idiot to do it in 2011, then I'd be glad to speak in 2012. So this is one of those, give it to Mikey, he'll try anything kind of presentations. Then I thought to myself, no way I'm going to fall for that. Hey, I know people. And in particular, I know Jeff Love. So I went to Jeff with my dilemma, knowing the great raconteur that he is, and I asked for his help. After several long and uncomfortable moments, Jeff bent over with a furrowed brow. He finally said, "Doug, I am persuaded that your intuition in these matters is in fact somewhat insightful. And so while I believe that you lack the sagacity to properly respond to this persiflage, might I suggest that you avoid perambulation and rather ensconce yourself so as to refine a certain perspicuous oratoricality that might somehow allow you to overcome an obvious cognitive deficit. And further, might I suggest that the foci of your efforts be on pithiness, so as to avoid any narcoleptic responses that could lead to enuresis during your comments, which are in any event sure to be ineffectual at best." So of course I had no idea what that meant, but it sounded to me like Jeff was giving me a compliment, so here I am in front of you. In all seriousness, I couldn't be more honored to have the opportunity to speak in front of an audience comprised of so many of the leaders of Houston, a city that I love, a city which has offered all of us so many opportunities. I also want to commend the Center for Houston's Future for the valuable work they do in our community. It's the only organization of its kind whose purpose is to constantly look out over the horizon, beyond 10 years, to try to help shape our future and advance the Houston region. The center challenges each of us to think longer term and practice swinging where the ball is going to be rather than where it is, whether the topic is citizenship, education, health, the environment, or quality of place. I had the opportunity the other day to hear Steven Spielberg speak about DreamWorks' success, and he attributed it to the fact that, quote, "they worry everything to death and then hope everything to life," And I think that's a great analogy for the center, as you will no doubt see evidenced in the provocative questions that arise from the center's upcoming Scenario 2040 work. Catherine's asked that I share with you my personal story, but what I'd be more comfortable doing is sharing with you my family story and how I think it might be relevant to the future of our city. Neither of my parents had a college degree. They were Depression babies who believed that if you breathed, you worked, and that this was the key to success. They made a home in Houston. They worked hard. They provided for their family, and they provided for their retirement. I grew up in the original part of Spring Branch and attended Ridgecrest Elementary, Landrum Junior High School, and Spring Branch High School. I started working for a paycheck when I was about 12 as a dishwasher at a local restaurant. I still use many of the lessons I learned digging plates and glasses and silverware out of bus tubs late at night and shoving them through the dishwasher, working side by side and shoulder to shoulder with a handicapped man for whom that job was his sole means of support and for whom this was the top of the corporate ladder. I tell people all the time I lied and told them I was 16, and they lied and told me I was getting minimum wage. So I'd say that I lived larger than many young teenagers, with a paycheck every week and money in my pockets. There are no college graduates in my family, so when I was a senior in high school and my advisor told me that I shouldn't go to college, but should go to trade school instead, well, that was all I needed. I told my folks, who didn't have the experience to advise me on this, and they said, fine. So I partially followed his advice. I didn't go to college. I also didn't go to trade school. I became a bowling alley resurfacer, an honorable job with great pay for a kid right out of high school, but very physical labor, 20-hour work days, lots of travel, and significant job safety issues. Sanding down and relacquering bowling lanes with no ventilation and no respirator would not meet with OSHA's approval today. With my best friend, who had made a similar decision, I ultimately went to college here at the University of Houston while working full-time, and then to Texas State full-time where I graduated. I then went to work for Allied Bank of Texas. They were foolish enough to offer me $19,000 a year to be a banker, more money than I had ever imagined for a job I had no earthly idea how to accomplish. This exposure to business whetted my appetite, and many years later, I went back and received my MBA at Rice. I tell you all this because I think it illustrates a primary challenge as well as a profound opportunity that our community faces today. First, in essentially one generation, we went from a place where a young couple could do just fine without a college degree or some form of post-high school training to one where that is practically impossible. And second, with one college graduate, you can change a generations-long cycle. You see, I can tell you without a doubt that each of my 4 children will graduate from college. That's going from a batting average of 0 with my parents to a batting average of 333 among me and my siblings to a batting average of 1,000 with my kids in 2 generations. Felix, you're a baseball guy. That's a pretty good batting average. That's the power of education. Now for some sobering news. To date, we're losing the education war. Nationally, in the last 35 years, in inflation-adjusted dollars, we have doubled K-12 spending, more than tripled the number of teachers in our classes, and reduced the student-teacher ratio 43%. What have we got to show for it? Bupkis. And guess what? We've got no one to blame but ourselves. SAT scores have been flat since the 1970s. High school graduation rates in the U.S. lag nearly every single OECD country. And that's for all kids. For minorities, it is much, much worse. Black and Latino 12th graders read and do math at the same level as white 8th graders. In New York State, of those in 9th grade in 2002, only 13% of black and Hispanic males and 7% of English language learners were in their 2nd year of college 6 years later. And less than 20% of those in the bottom half of the economic ladder graduate from any four-year college. The fact is today, the color of your skin and the zip code you live in are almost entirely determinative of the quality of education you're provided. So why does that matter, and especially now? And why does it matter in this room, given that many or most of those here have the right color skin and live in the right zip codes? Well, here's why. First and most important for me is the fact that my faith tells me that this situation is immoral and allowing it to continue to exist is a sin. But if that doesn't work for you, then how about this? A college graduate will make over $1 million more than a high school graduate over their lifetime. From 1998 to 2008, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 10.2 million jobs were created for college grads. You know how many it was for high school? 120,000. And for high school dropouts, well, they went down 600,000 jobs. 44% of high school dropouts are not in the workforce, and 15% more are unemployed. Those are staggering figures, and they have only gotten worse in today's economy. But these are national figures. Ours are much better, right? Well, actually, no. The fact that Texas was a lone shining star in the recent economic downturn is cold comfort as we face our longer-term challenges. We can certainly brag about recent economic performance, but we have real vulnerabilities. In a recent speech to the Texas legislature, Richard Fisher shared some sobering information. The Beacon Hill Institute's State Competitiveness Report gave us mixed reviews. On the positive side of the ledger, low tax burden, employment in high-tech industries, venture capital, IPOs, low unionization, unrestricted minimum wages, exports, foreign direct investment, and percent of population born abroad who come here to work. But on the negative side of the ledger, Texas was ranked at or near the bottom in almost every human capital measure. We are dead last in percentage of adults with high school diplomas, 37th in percent of population enrolled in degree-granting institutions, 35th in academic research and development, and 41st in science and engineering degrees awarded. That's right, the state that is the home to the energy capital of the world is 41st in the nation in creating scientists and engineers. The Association of American Universities, or AAU, comprises 61 U.S. and Canadian universities and is considered the cream of the crop of research universities. Those 61 schools garner 58% of all federal research and development dollars. They house 82% of all members of the National Academy of Scientists, the National Academy of Engineering, and the Institute of Medicine. Since 1901, 35%, one-third of all Nobel Prizes have gone to individuals at those 61 universities. California has 9 AAU members. New York has 9 AAU members. Texas, 3. Rice, UT Austin, Texas A&M. Today in Houston, only about 15% of HISD freshmen end up graduating from college. Those numbers drop to 7% for Hispanics and 11% for African Americans. And we're on the front end of a massive demographic shift that will serve to make these challenges even greater. Oh, and did I mention that education, which is 40% of state spending, is being discussed in the context of massive deficits? So with that bright and sunny prologue, let me tell you what my vision is for Houston 20 years from now. To be admired throughout the world as the first major city in the nation to face its education challenges head-on, to fix the problem, and to vault itself from laggard to peerless. A city where every single child is offered a high-quality education to prepare them for the jobs of the 21st century. And that, my friends, will take leadership. Even if you believe this should be the priority, why would you possibly believe that this could become a reality? Well, I think Jim Collins' concept of the flywheel in his book Good to Great is a great analogy for this. Picture a huge, heavy flywheel, he says. A massive metal disc mounted horizontally on an axle, about 30 feet in diameter, 2 feet thick, weighing 5,000 pounds. Your task is to get that flywheel rotating on the axle as fast and as long as possible. Pushing with great effort, you get the flywheel to inch forward, moving almost imperceptibly at first. Then it moves a bit faster. 1 revolution, 2 revolutions, 3 revolutions, 4, 5, 6, and then at some point, breakthrough. The momentum kicks in your favor, and its own heavy weight works for you. Someone later asked, what was the one big push that caused this thing to go so fast? Well, you couldn't possibly answer that question because it's nonsensical. It was all of the pushes together.